In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Twitter for educators. Now, we need to start by understanding what social media is. Social media are media that are used for social interactions. They're highly accessible, particularly on mobile platforms, and they are powered by web-based engines. And so, as we look around the vast array of apps and websites that allow social media to occur, we have things like Flickr for photo sharing and YouTube for video sharing. Pinterest and Delicious are good link or bookmark sharing platforms. And obviously there are the more traditional social media sites like Google+, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But sites like Audioboo and Blogger let you essentially create posts that have media embedded in them. What we're going to focus on in this particular podcast is Twitter, and particularly how it impacts education. Now, it is clear that social media is the future of communication, and we as educators cannot continue to ignore the power of this platform. So the whole point about Twitter, which a lot of people don't seem to get, is simply who are you following and who's following you. To understand what Twitter is, it is technically what we call a microblog, because you're limited to a certain number of characters, about 160 or so, in which to send your message. It is, for all intents and purposes, sending a text message to the universe. And the reason I say that is because you don't have to know who your message is being addressed to. You are merely addressing it to everyone, and those people that are following you will be able to receive that message and reply to it, pass it on, and so forth. So the best analogy to the tool is texting, and if you've ever sent a text from a cell phone or a smartphone, you absolutely know what you have to do to use the tool. So from a let's kind of get started perspective, you can use your smartphone or your tablet or your internet browser to go to twitter.com. You can create a free account. You do need an email address for this, of course. And you'll be asked to create your handle that people will know you by when you're using the Twitter application. So I do want you to think carefully about your handle. Obviously, it needs to be recognizable so that you're you, but at the same time, you may want it to stand out or be more unique so that you're either easier to follow or you're not just some random spread of letters and numbers and people will think you're spamming them if they don't recognize you as a known quantity. So after you create your free account, you merely download the app. Now, I will tell you that most people use Twitter from a client or a mobile device, so you'll want to download the Twitter app or a Twitter app from either the Google Play Store for Android or the App Store for iOS. And it should work for you on smartphone, tablet, Android, or iOS. Of course, it will also work for you from a browser. So any browser will let you send messages. We call them tweets. It will let you find users and follow them. And you can use Twitter that way. Now, the best advice for a new Twitter user would be to follow me. My Twitter handle is @JasonSmithCSBO. And that way you can get involved with Twitter by just lurking for a while before you actually find that you do have indeed content to tweet. This is just a list of other people who are great to follow, particularly if you're an educator and you're interested in topics like educational technology and Web 2.0 tools. So how do you find somebody? When you're in the Twitter interface, this is a screenshot, you'll notice that there's a search bar up in the upper right-hand part of the navigation in the web page. You simply start typing in for who you're looking for. Now I gave you some examples of usernames, and so here we would be looking for Edudemic. And as I start to type, you'll notice that it will populate a list for me that I can choose. So when I would click on Edudemic's picture, it would give me a button that would allow me to click and follow that particular user. So after you've followed several people, you'll start to notice their messages falling into your kind of timeline. I do want to take just a minute to kind of decompress or deconstruct what the Twitter message has in it. Obviously, there will be a picture that's associated with the user's profile and their handle. So this is a tweet from Angela Myers, who is an awesome tweeter. You should follow her. her whole message is really about making sure that students know that they matter. And then as we compose the short message, it's really giving us a summary or a tease that later she's going to point us to with respect to maybe a link to a URL. So you can see the user names are the @ followed by the @ symbol. That's what the Twitter handle is. You can embed into this message links to URLs, and that's just a copy and paste from your browser. And you'll also notice that there is a hashtag in the message. It's the little # followed by a word or two usually. And hashtags are a way that we categorize our tweets. It's essentially like adding a subject. So in this tweet, the sender, Angela, is retweeting a message that was originally sent by Gary Loper. So that is the game. We either compose new messages out to our followers, or if we see a good message that we receive from someone we follow, we can retweet that message to the people that are following us. Once you're in a particular user, you can find out who they follow, and then maybe you could choose to follow some of those people. Twitter is an awesome search engine too. It's quickly becoming one of the best ways to search the web, particularly for links to resources and conversations about particular topics. Even though Twitter is web-based, most of us use a Twitter client. Some popular ones are things like the Twitter app for Mac or for iOS. There's TweetDeck, there's Hootsuite, and Flipboard, which is a feed aggregator. It actually pulls in your Twitter stream as well as Facebook and your other social media content streams. And the great thing about Twitter is it works on everything. Every smartphone has a client, even BlackBerry. That's saying something. Any browser on Chrome, Safari, or Firefox, you can access Twitter. It's very agnostic. It works on both Android and the iOS platforms. And so if you were to go out and take a live look, this is an example of what my timeline would look like in an app or in a client. You saw on an earlier screen what it looked like in the web browser. But Twitter essentially replicates whatever's happening out there on the Twitter site into the interface of your choosing, whether that be browser, app, or a client. So those are kind of the fundamental mechanics of Twitter. You're going to create and send small messages that usually contain a URL inside of them, where you're going to write a little tease to the people following you and then point them to the resources that give them more information. Now, I think there are 3 ways that Twitter is a very powerful tool in education. The first is as a professional learning network for teachers and administrators. You know, staying connected to people who are smarter than we are and finding great ideas is really difficult to do sometimes because there's so much content on the internet. It's hard to dig through all of it in a meaningful kind of way. What Twitter allows you to do are to follow experts that you want to follow, number one, and that number 2 are talking about things that you're interested in. Maybe that's Common Core or educational technology or digital literacy or differentiated instruction, whatever the topic. And you can follow people and engage in conversations or find resources that are germane to the topic that you're interested in. It is by far, for me personally, the best professional learning tool available on the web or anyplace else today. Now in the classroom, students can really leverage Twitter's power as a point of reference, a point of connection, a way to collaborate, gather, follow, monitor, share ideas and links, and summarize what they're learning in very different ways. And there's a link at the bottom of this slide. Edudemic posted about the 30 newest ways to use Twitter in the classroom. There are awesome resources and examples through blogs that are out on the web today that talk about how you can really leverage Twitter as a research and a collaboration tool that your students can use. Now, obviously, one of the arguments here is if you're under the age of 13, you can't have an email address and you can't have a Twitter account. So This blog entry talks about how you can use Twitter with very young children, and one of the strategies is what we call paper tweeting, which is where students essentially learn how to compose the tweets. They do it on sticky notes and stick it on the wall, and then the teacher, through their Twitter account, posts the messages that are really salient or appropriate for the classroom to be able to use. So do please read this blog about Twitter for little folks. It's a very interesting way to use Twitter in elementary school classrooms. Now, as I had said on an earlier slide, a hashtag is a way that we organize the chaos. It's essentially a way to put a subject on the message that we're sending out. So if I were sending a message out about iPads, for example, I would use the pound sign and the word iPad after it so that it could be searchable. And there are lots of resources for educational hashtags that are popular today. TWUBS and hashtags.org let you go and register your hashtag so that you can easily go to an interface and compile all the conversations that are surrounding that particular hashtag. Twitter is a great way to back channel in the classroom, and hashtags help us to make that a little bit easier. Now, if you're not quite sure what back channeling is, it's essentially a real-time online conversation that's happening behind a presentation or a video that a group of people is watching. So I'll do something more about hashtags in a later podcast. So if you juxtapose what blogging is and what tweeting is, understand that they're two very different vehicles, and each one serves its own purpose. Blogs, we tend to use lots more words, and we use it to persuade and elaborate and talk about opinions and ideas. Whereas Twitter tends to be a tease and then a lead. For example, on the news, they do this a lot. Dolphin attacks girl at SeaWorld. See more at 11. Here we're going to write a small bit of text and put a URL reference in that message so that someone can read it, be interested by it, and then click the link and go and learn more. Obviously, there are differences in writing style here. One is prose versus kind of texting lingo. But it's important to remember each serves its own purpose, and both can be important in what you're doing in the classroom. Obviously, number 3 is the connectivity. Twitter allows you to provide real-time updates, reminders, announcements, and links to resources to a wide variety of people. All teachers have multiple audiences. Their students, their other teachers within their grade level or subject matter, as well as parents and the world at large. And so Twitter is a powerful platform for connectivity. So the things to think about with respect to Twitter are, can you create a classroom Twitter to communicate with other classrooms? How would you use it as a personal learning network? Who can you get to follow you, and who would you want to follow? You see, we're trying to create opportunities for students to be involved in social media. And so really, I think you should be strategic in the use of any social media tool. Stop and think and make a plan. Let's say that you're going to create a classroom Twitter, and once a week you're going to email a summary of what you're going to tweet a summary of what you did and point to the link back to a blog entry that talks about your classroom. See, communication is a big deal, and we've been communicating for years and years utilizing mostly email. But right now there's a battle going on between email and social media. I think email is quickly becoming a thing of the past, and things like texting and tweeting and video conferencing are quickly changing the landscape with respect to how we communicate in one way and in two ways. So Twitter is just that. It's a great social media tool for quick collaboration. Again, go to twitter.com, create your free account, download your app, and lurk for a while. And then, of course, you can start tweeting messages of your own. Again, you can follow me. I am at Jason Smith, CSBO. That's all scrunched together. Follow me and find some ideas for how you can better utilize it as a platform in your classroom.